I want my painting back.
The painting was a gift, Todd. I'm taking it with me.
You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
You don't come in my dojo and drop a challenge and leave, old man. Now, you get your boy on the mat, or you and I will have a major problem.
Too much advantage. Your dojo.
You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah!
Nice muscles, Tyler, dude.
I actually give a whole talk about treating our work like an athletic event. And when you see it that way, it doesn't mean you don't have fun. And I mean, having a shift drink and hanging with the people you just did battle with should never be taken away. But I mean, what's wrong with like calling that out a little bit? It almost feels like our industry is growing up a little bit. And I know it's easy to hold on to what was and to really glorify it. And I liked the School of Hard Knocks. I liked how hard life was. I felt like I was doing something not a lot of people could handle. But it doesn't mean it needs to be the norm. And I think that to have that stuff challenged, I don't think is that awful.
I admit I don't look like the athlete of the day supposed to look. My belly's just a little big. My hand is just a little big. But brother, I am bad and they know I'm bad. And there were two bad people. One was John Wayne and he's dead, brother. And the other was right here.
If you just shut the fuck up for 30 seconds, you might learn something.
Welcome to Plumluvfoods Live, #1 live digital audio industry show for chefs by chefs. Hosted by multi-time Food Network winner and award-winning chef, Chef Plum, and culinary veteran, star of the Food Saver commercial, Chef Jeff. So wrap, date, and rotate because the boys are about to set your Nissan flaws. Here are the Good Brothers.
Oh yeah, friends. It's that time. It's Thursday night. You know what we got going on. It's your boys over here at Plumluvfoods Live this evening. I'll tell you what, we got a fantastic show for you, friends. Legendary chef Michel Nischan is going to be joining us here in a few minutes. It's always great to have super intelligent people on the program. At least that's what I say, because I think you should surround yourself with smart people. Then it makes you seem smarter. And that's why I always, on this program, bring with me the one, the only, Chef Jeffy. Jeffy, hey, buddy, what's going on? Happy Thursday
Back
to you.
in the house, Thursday night, as usual, ready to do the thing.
That's it. That's what we're going to do. We got a great show tonight, man. I'm super excited to hang out with Chef Michel Nischan. He is this is a legendary human being where I live, and I think all over the place. And I can't think of, if you watch any big name chef and you say Chef Michel's name, everyone's like, oh, that guy's amazing. That guy's amazing. That guy's amazing. So excited to have him on the program tonight.
Yeah, and he's doing great things, which is a twofer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sitting in the other chair over there right here with us, producer extraordinaire, the legendary Chef Dan. Dan, what's up, buddy?
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, we got a great guest on tonight, someone that you introduced us to. We're excited to have him here on the program. You made the introduction happen here for Jeffy. Chef Michel Nischan's going to be on. You actually almost worked at his restaurant years ago, right? Oh, one of his restaurant, the Paul Newman place.
Yeah, the dressing room in Westport, Connecticcut. Yeah, it was.
Boy, did he make the right decision not hiring you. That was a good choice on his part.
Probably did him a favor. Probably
really dodged the bullet. Really dodged the bullet there.
Yeah, it was a weird situation. They weren't open yet. I ended up finding something else and not ended up working there, so it kind of changed. But I kind of followed the restaurant throughout the years. I followed Chef Michel and saw all the amazing things he does in Connecticut and beyond. Like it's really fascinating. I ran into him a couple times, and I'm super happy to really get into it and have this conversation.
It's gonna be fantastic. We're excited to have him on the program. Before we jump into it, we're going to jump right into it, too. I don't want to make the guys sit around and wait for us, that's for sure. Just before we do get into it, I got to put out there, don't forget, friends, coming up, end of the month, January, January 25th, Mohegan Sun Food and Wine. We're going to be there. I'm hosting the Coke stage. I'm doing the Dine Around event. I'm doing a demo. Jeff, you'll be up there with me. Dan will be there with us. We're going to be getting interviews with people. It's the best event of the year. If you haven't got tickets yet, you got to get tickets. I know there's some giveaways on Facebook, too. You got to check that out as well. Sun Food and Wine. You got to check it out. Shout out to Chef Michelle. She is on the Instagram right now chiming in. She's excited to be there as well. It's going to be a fun one, man. You got to make sure you check it out. If you're not got tickets, get tickets now. They are selling out all the events. It's the 20th anniversary. It's going to be huge. I can't wait for it, man. So much fun. What a fun event. Be there as well. It's going to be a fun one, man. You got to make sure. It's awesome. Someone's talking back to us there. That must have been.
No, I was. I was trying to get the feed up, and
that was your cue to start talking back to me, and you're like staring off.
No, I was not. I wasn't trying to stare off. I was just getting my cue up so I can keep up to date with what's going on
the Instagram. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, but this is the 20th year anniversary at the Mohegan Sun. We're gonna come with it. The food is gonna be amazing. I'm super excited to give everybody the offerings this year at the dine around and also the demo. You know, we're ready to make people happy. We're gonna be doing some dope giveaways.
Have we said it yet? What we're doing?
Nope, we haven't told anybody, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried, because people are coming regardless. But once they hear what's happening,
once they hear
the love that's gonna be poured out onto this plate.
Oh, it's gonna be a lot, that's for sure. Just to give you a hint, pork belly burn ends. That's just what I'm saying to start. That's all I'm saying to start. It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait. Well, fellas, let's jump into it here. I can't wait to get this guest on. Tonight's guest has been in the food and sustainability industry for over 35 years. He's a four-time James Beard award-winning chef, a multi-time cookbook author, a husband, a father, founder and president of Wholesome Crave, and so much more, and is way smarter than any of us. And we're about to have a treat to get a chance to sit under the learning tree. Friends, please welcome to the show, Chef Michel Nischan. There he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Let's go.
Oh, I got it muted. Oh no, he's muted. There he is. Now he can hear us.
Chef, yeah, I'm here.
We're so excited to have you on, man. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for inviting me. I really, really appreciate it, man. And this is like my time of night. It's what I miss about not being in the restaurant industry.
Exactly. That's the funnest part about it. Sitting around the boys, talking shop. That's what we love to do it. We love to do it.
That's right.
Chef, first of all, I mean, when you start looking you up and researching you and just finding out all the things that you've done, all the cookbooks that you've done, all the TED Talks that you've done, it's out of control. It's amazing. It's impressive. But I don't think I could find a whole lot of information just on where, like, your education, your culinary work, like, how did you get into food? I know you were raised by farmers, of course, your parents, but how did you get into like actually being a chef?
Well, that actually was kind of it. Honestly, I mean, I used to go down I didn't know it at the time, but every summer it was our job to go down to my grandfather's farm in Morley, Missouri, which isn't the boot heel. It's like Missouri is the state, and it's big kind of square state, Mississippi River, and then the little boot heel over here. That's where my grandfather lived, the headwaters of the Mississippi Delta. But I used to work that farm, and he did hogs, goats, and chickens, watermelon, root crop, sweet corn. We had a family vegetable patch. My mom was one of 13, so we had a bunch of cousins. What we didn't realize, we were the migrant farm workers, So we'd go down and work the farm, because what we didn't know is that he couldn't afford to hire farm workers anymore. So we were kind of like the lifeline, but we worked our ass off. But it's where I learned how to butcher and cure and salt and ferment and, all these things. And to me, I mean, it's like when you're a kid growing up in Chicago, Illinois, like in the 60s and 70s and stuff, you don't know what you don't know. It's like if I was doing that in my summer, I just assumed other kids my age
everybody did.
Were learning the same thing, right? So it's funny. My real passion was music. My grandpa died when I was 17. We stopped going down to the farm. I got in this band in Chicago called Scoundrel, and was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with like 3 other dudes, barely making rent, barely eating. And my mom's like, Michel, you're losing weight. You're a good cook. Let's get you a job in a restaurant. It's a meal a day and a paycheck. So I started at a breakfast truck stop in Illinois on Russell Road, Center's truck stop. The last exit before Wisconsin, in like late 1978. And by 1981, I was the chef at a French restaurant in Milwaukee called the Fleur de Lis. I was back then, because you weren't alive yet, but it's like back then.
I wish I wasn't.
It was a lot of European chefs and mostly, Mexican, Central American, Puerto Rican in the kitchen, and no white people. And the Europeans kind of despise young white Americans because they didn't have work ethic or whatever. So I was this anomaly, when I could, break down a leg of veal faster than the Alsatian chef I was working with.
Yeah.
I really didn't know the restaurant environment. I was really pretty new, but he watched me work and he's like, "You really know food. Will you be my sous chef?" I'm like, "What's a sous chef?" And he's like, $3 more an hour. I'm like, "Cool, I'm a sous chef."
Count me in.
Count me in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but that really was it. And then from there, it was what my grandfather called the school of eyes open, ears open, mouth closed, hands on. Observe, watch, learn. Don't get in the way of learning. And European and French methodology really fascinated me and inspired me. And I just sucked it up and sucked it in and moved pretty quickly, because I already had the skills. The skills were like natural to me. And the rest is kind of like history.
Chef, we got to shout out Chef Matt Storch is chiming in on Instagram. It says, "Looking good, chefs." Obviously, I was thinking, obviously, he's watching.
Yeah, he needs a pair of these.
I mean, if we had hats like Jeffy, it might be better, Chef. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. It's going away. Eventually, I'm going to need that, man.
I like the ponytail though.
You got it rocking, man.
Yeah, cool.
That's it. So honestly, but actual chef training was kind of on the job for you. There wasn't any schooling involved. It was just kind of
it was
on the
100%.
job.
I mean, I barely graduated high school. I hated school.
Right.
I just, I was one of those guys where it's like algebra. How am I going to use that?
Right.
It's like, I'm like, I know how to drive a tractor and work a backhoe and a power auger and a shit spreader. And it's kind of like, I know how to cook. It's like, you need to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, but it's like algebra. Geometry actually is kind of cool. But a lot of the other stuff, I just wasn't interested. I was the guy where the teachers always said to my mom and dad, "He has so much potential if he would only apply himself."
I got some of that too. I think I got a little, Jeffy, I think I got some of that too, right?
Absolutely. I feel like you're telling my life story as well.
That's it.
Right there.
Yeah, that's why we ended up in the kitchen, because nobody else would take us.
That's it. It's the family we had to find. We were pirates, right? Big shout out to chiming in our friend over from Chile, Hernan Pardo, chiming in. What's up, Hernan? We love to see you, buddy. The guys in Chile watch the show every week. It's the craziest thing.
Nice.
It's awesome. We love it. I don't know if you can understand us or I can understand him, but we'll shake hands and hang out with him and talk food as best we can. We'll eat his food. He wants to eat ours too. Whatever. So we do. Chef,
cheers, Hernan.
Yeah, there it is. Cheers. Chef, I watched a bunch of TED Talks with you and listened. I think you've done 173 of them, if I'm right.
161.
61, excuse me. 60. But no, it's and they're all very, very fascinating, which is, we're going to get into why it's fascinating. But I think one of the things I love the most, what you said in one of them, you just said, "I'm a cook." And I think too many people these days in this industry, everybody wants to be the chef, right? But just being just be a good cook, like any great chef's a good cook. And I think too many people don't understand it. Just there's nothing wrong with just, hey, I'm a cook, right?
Well, I think what's interesting to me is that you get into those parts of the hierarchy where you're in these leadership positions, and it really becomes apparent pretty quickly that you can end up in a position where you're cooking a lot less.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got in it because I love to cook, and I love to do shit that it's like you put something together and you put it in front of somebody. And I know you guys feel the same way. It's like you are looking for the sparkle in their eyes,
immediate gratification,
their mouth to start to go up, and then the smiles start to form, and then that's your payment. It doesn't even matter what your wage is. It's just the whole notion that something that you did very intentionally, really intentionally, because we're very intentional about what we do. It's not accident. We're not just grabbing a bunch of shit and throwing it in a pan or in an oven. It's just when we see someone, especially if we know they're a little bit skeptical, and then they light up, it's like It's almost really like our life has passed and we've just learned that there is a promised land that we're going to. It makes us feel that way because we have this gene inside us that I call the gene of genuine hospitality, right? It makes us hospitalitarians, right?
Yeah.
We're not in it for the money, we're not in it for the glory, we're not in it for the fame. We're in it to please people.
Yeah.
And cooks please people. Chefs lead people. And the challenge that I really tried to work all my career was how can I find a way to do both? Because you can't completely disconnect yourself from being a cook and then lead cooks and help them understand to dig deeper to find that emotional connection to someone's response to something that they really nailed, and that's I think we have a duty, all of us have a duty to make sure that anybody that we're mentoring or stewarding along understands how to connect with the person that's eating their food in that way, right?
That's great.
I see it as an obligation, honestly.
It's funny. I had the opportunity and pleasure to work with Sean Brock at the Jefferson Hotel.
I love Sean.
Years ago. And you talk about a human being who's got that connection with the people when it comes to food, but also the connection to the food. Like I've never seen a person more passionate about that. Even in the younger years when we got a chance to work together, unbelievable passion with it. And I think you're right. It's practice that art of hospitality. That's what it is. What do we do? We make people happy.
That's but it's also, honest God, it's like really honestly loving and knowing your ingredients. Sean and I were on this panel at Aspen Food and Wine.
Yeah.
Geez, like, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. And it was the first year Food and Wine was benefiting Wholesome Wave. We're on this panel and I said, food are people too. And Sean's like, you're right. it's like, that whole notion of, I mean, my mom, she would do shit like this, like when we were kids, right? She would like wait until it rained. And then the evening of, or the day after an evening rainfall, she would go out and pick a cucumber. And then she would take the cucumber and put it on the counter and cut it. And all of this water would come out because it was just like bursting because it just rank, right? And she'd run her finger through it and make us run our finger as little kids through it and say, what is this? And we're like, water. And she's like, juice. She's like, rain. This is rainfall. This fell from the sky yesterday. And this is when you want to eat this cucumber, right? That notion of knowing who your food is, it's
unbelievable.
It's a great way to think about it because you think about not wanting to waste, really having the intensity to search out the very best ingredients to put the best thing possible in front of that skeptic that you want to make smile. It's kind of like you want to draw on every arrow in the quiver to make sure that person leaves the table happy, right? And it's just a different way of thinking, but I like thinking that way. It's
a great way of thinking. Dan, why don't you get those plugs out there for Chef really quick before we jump into the next conversation? Because I got a feeling it's going to be a deep one.
Absolutely. So you can check out Chef Michel. You can check him out on his website, chefnischan.com. Also check out wholesomewave.org. Go on there. They got all kinds of stuff. It's a beautiful organization. All kinds of way to donate and help. It's a great time.
Cool. Chef, you didn't know that Dan was the best plug man in the business.
Yeah, Dan the plugger, man. Plugging Dan. You got to change your handle.
That's it. That's it.
Plugger, man.
That's it.
I love it.
So, Chef, you kind of made a turn with your cuisine, your cooking, your kid, because you had two boys, right? And they both had diabetes. And I think I've heard you talk about how diabetes is something that you catch it early enough, you can use food to get rid of it. You catch it early enough, you can use food to, almost heal it. Is that right?
Yeah, in most cases, really, because there are two types of diabetes. There's type 1, formerly known as juvenile diabetes, where your pancreas just stops producing insulin. That one you can't reverse. That's what my sons have, and fortunately, it affects the least amount of people. I think right now in the United States, we probably have around 2 million people that are living with type 1 diabetes, but we have close to 60 million with type 2, which is the type that is caused by what you eat, how you treat your body, whether or not you move around and exercise. That it's called, type 2 diabetes is a diet related disease. It's definitely a lifestyle thing. Some of it could be hereditary, but in most cases, it's really about putting too much stuff in your body, and your body just says, hell no. and insulin stops working, your cells become insulin resistant. So it just, when Chris was diagnosed, I was about a third of the way through my career. I've been at it for, it's funny, I have to change my bio. It's actually closer to 45 years now. Yes, I am.
I wasn't going to say that. Same thing. Like I'm at pushing 30, a little over 30 now. I just go, over 25 years. That's
no, dude, it's unreal, right? But about a third of the way through, I had been doing the whole farm to table thing because of the way I was raised with my grandfather. When I got into restaurants and rapidly made it to a chef position, I was pretty pissed off about the quality of food coming in the back door. So I was doing stuff like in 1981, going out to Oconomowoc, Wisconsin with a seed catalog because I knew what it was, getting farmers to plant tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff for me and paying them in advance half of the crop value, so they had the crop insurance, and then getting it. That I thought that's what my life was going to be. How do we get farming back to the way I was raised, right? And then Chris got sick, and the first part of it was really horrible because we learned how fatal the disease could be if you didn't do the right stuff. Luckily, we had an endocrinologist who's like, listen, what you guys do with, there's hope. You're a chef, you know how to cook. What you do with Chris's food and your family's food plan, he could live a long, happy, normal life if you do get his food right.
Okay.
So we started doing the internet wasn't around back then. This is like 1993. But we did a bunch of research and learned. It's like, oh my God, I'm like doing baby goat poached in apple smoked bacon fat for my customers, and rack of lamb with a bacon roasted shallot demi-glace, and all of the, and I'm like, what happened is I started feeling like I was killing my customers,
right?
And thankfully the science has changed, and it's fat isn't the villain that people once thought it was, but back then that's all the science that was there, because the obesity epidemic was just starting to happen.
Sure.
But I learned about it, so I couldn't keep feeding my customers that way. I was thinking about quitting. I don't know if you remember Michael Batterberry, Food Arts Magazine.
I remember Food Arts Magazine.
Yeah. It just, he was really seminal. He and his wife did Food and Wine Magazine and sold it to American Express in the late 70s. And then he started Food Arts, which was really pretty amazing. It opened the door for art culinaire and, all of those other things. But he was a friend and a mentor, and I told him I wanted to quit. It's like, if I change my concept at Mishmash, people are going to stop coming. And I just don't know what to do. He's like, you can't quit. This is an important thing, and you're talented, and you need to figure out a way to deal with it. He wrote a small piece on it in Food Arts, and Drew Nieporn read it, and he's like, it was like the 95 Beard Awards, and I was there, just checking it out. I wasn't nominated, but I was on their radar, and I think I was a semi-finalist, and Nieporn, I hear this deep voice in the room going, Mishmash, which was the name of my restaurant. And I look, and it's like Drew Nieporn, and he had just swept like eight James Beard Awards. I'm like, oh my God, Drew Nieporn called my name. He's like, I read the Batterberry piece, look at me, I'm 300 pounds. You need to work with me. So I ended up leaving Mishmash, taking a job at Tribeca Grill, working with Drew, because he had this vision. He's like, why can't, with all your local organic sustainable background, why can't we come up with a menu where anybody with any health concern, no matter what it is, can order anything off the menu and not have to worry about it unless they're like allergic to celery, that kind of thing, And I'm like, that's compelling, and that's how we did Heartbeat Restaurant.
That's where I was going to go next. Is that was the restaurant you had in the '90s where it was, I mean, no cream, no butter, no. I mean,
well, that was the science of the time. They didn't. What happened is all of a sudden everybody knew that America was fatter than everybody else, even though it was one of the wealthiest nations in the world.
Right.
And the only metadata that was out there was consumption data. So Americans were eating more fat than other developed nations, and they were fatter. So fat must make you fat.
Right.
Okay. Americans are eating more eggs and shrimp and crab than other developed nations, and those are high in cholesterol. So that must be why we have high cholesterol. Only to learn, thank God, after Heartbeat was opened. I mean, when I learned that butter wasn't as evil as it was, I did the happy dance.
I'll bet you start clapping. Give it up for butter.
We're doing cool shit at Heartbeat, really cool shit. Juicing sweet potatoes, letting the starch fall to the bottom for 4 hours. You take that sweet potato juice, put it in a sauce pot, and reduce it. And it's like a cream sauce. It starts reducing. Looks ugly as sin, but when it reduces by about half, the remaining starch catches up and it thickens itself, and it is sweet potato.
Okay, wow. I got to bring Jeff in for that because that's some stuff Jeff will love to do, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I was just actually writing this down.
No, it works.
I was like, ooh, that's smart as shit. I love this idea.
We had to work at it. I mean, we worked really hard, and it was delicious, and it was controversial, and it was incredible. But I also look at it's like, it's the only argument Neoport and I ever got in. Drew's like, we have to come up with the creamless cream sauce and the butterless hollandaise, and I'm like, no fucking way. We are not going to do that. These are things that are pillars of monumentally culturally important cuisines, and no, we're not going to step on shit. Look at what the Japanese are doing. Look at what the Mediterraneans are doing.
Yeah.
They're not using butter and foie gras and cream. Let's just pretend they don't exist. How do you make sauce? How do you make dessert?
So are any of these recipes you're talking about, are they in any of your cookbooks?
Say again?
Are any of these recipes we're talking about here, are they in any of your cookbooks?
Yeah. It's called Taste Pure and Simple was my first. And that was, I think it was like 2001 or something. It came out. It's in there. So those recipes are in there, and the approach is in there, and I really dug it. It was very, very fascinating, but I basically had to totally strip down and start from scratch.
Wow. Dan, I wanted to bring you in to see that though. Dan, that recipe, have you ever heard anything like that? That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I love the ingenuity of it. I think when you're working with vegetables in particular, I think people shorthand vegetables all the time. There's so many things that you could do with vegetables. It's like the things, the level of flavor that goes from one end of a vegetable to another, depending on how long you cook it, how you caramelize it, pureeing it, all that. So that's awesome.
Or even just the choice of vegetable, rutabaga to me is like one of the most remarkable vegetables in the world. If you juice a rutabaga and you reduce it and you taste it, I remember the first time I did this with a rutabaga, I was so stunned by the flavor profiles. I just took it out. There was one day that Drew and Michael Bonadies came in because we were doing the R&D at Reebok Sports Cafe because they were the only restaurant in the Myriad Restaurant Group that had juicers. So I juiced this rutabaga, and I took it out to them, and some of the stuff I was doing, like I would blend them with stocks. But what I learned is when you're not using fat, so it's like you use fat, you can soften something, but it also dulls things. So then you need some acid and you need salt and you need other, so you start building and layering, and, it just, and you achieve that balance through playing that game with salt, with fat and acid mostly, and then salt and something that's sweet, right? But all I did was, so what I learned is pristine stocks, no vegetables, no mirepoix, no tomato paste, just bones in water or brown bones in water, because when it's just this, so I'm going to go back to the sweet potato. That was the base of a sauce for duck, right? So we would brown duck carcasses, make what we called pristine stock, bones in water, because we didn't want to step on the sweet potato. So it's like we'd reduce that down, really reduce it down, almost to a glass, and then stir it into that sweet potato sauce I just described to you. And now it tastes like duck and sweet potato.
Come on.
Because it doesn't have the fat, you have to be careful about how you season it. So we would shave a whole cilantro plant, the roots, the stem, the leaves, Thai bird chili peppers, a little bit of galangal, and then just steep it, with a china cap, and steep it until it reached the flavor profile that was really awesome, and then stop. Because if you left it in there, just like herbs in a stock, it's why stocks change. They never stay the same. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 after cooking, they evolve, and you have to respond to that when you're using it in a recipe, right? But what I found is that you could actually freeze the state of suspended animation by steeping herbs, and then if you wanted a little bit of viscosity, we would just mount in some extra virgin olive oil or grapeseed oil, and we had this remarkable coriander duck sauce. Oh yeah, and toasted coriander seeds for like a coriander duck breast, right? So it's just a different way of thinking. And a lot of people think if you're not going to use fat, you need more seasoning to replace the flavor that you're missing. And the key is, if you're not going to use fat, you actually need less seasoning.
That's so interesting.
Everything.
Here's the book, by the way. That's the book.
Oh yeah, that's it. Oh wow, you found that. Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's out of print, so good luck.
Oh, we can't get it anywhere, Chef? Come on.
Well, I know you could probably get it on Amazon. They probably have like 6 copies. I've never been a self-promoter and stuff like that, so just
we'll promote it for you. Listen,
really,
right. What you just did. I mean, listen, I know the book was 20 years ago. That just promoted the hell out of the book to a bunch of really cooks who were into it. I'm telling you. That was awesome.
If that was 20 years ago, you're so far ahead of your time, too.
I know.
So many people
Yeah,
do
well, I always look at it. I was right on time. It's like, it's like it's your cook. You're a cook, right? You want to see the smile on somebody's face, or the impact of what you haven't experienced a significant emotional event like I had. And it's like, if I'm not going to feed that to my family, I'm not going to feed it to my customer, and I still want to see them smile. So it's like,
it's funny. I think it takes a lot
you can't leave any stone unturned, man, to get the
I think it takes
there,
a lot of cooks a long time to get to that point, though, to where it becomes more than just a job to them. Like I feel like myself in the past 5 or 10 years, I'm 30 years into doing this. I feel like now I have a better understanding of it now. I don't know. Like I'm very funny about when I serve to my client. I work with a family as a private chef still, and I'm really funny about it, and like, I don't know, like if I'm not going to eat it, why would I give it to them? I don't know. I know it's even dumb to say, but I think there's so many places that don't think like that now.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And it's like, and that premise has really followed me everywhere. It's like the whole notion of it's actually the work at Heartbeat that got me invited into all these think tanks with
honestly, that was incredible.
I often stink, but no, it's Walt Willett is runs the T.H. Chan School of Public Health at Harvard University, and he's really well known in the public health space. He's a real rock star. CIA does these Menus of Change conferences every year, and it's a partnership between Harvard School of Public Health, the Culinary Institute. The first few that were done, I was part of it because I was this anomaly. It's like, wow, white American chef getting really great reviews in the press for cooking healthy food.
Yeah.
How do we do? Because it was that time where the tobacco lawsuits had been settled, and the lawyers were looking for another demon because it was
something else to go after, right?
For them. So they're going to go after big food. So the CIA came up with World of Healthy Flavors. It's like, how do we help Ruby Tuesdays, the Darden Restaurant Group, and these chains reimagine their menus so that they're not, so they have healthy offerings, so people at least have a choice. It was, everybody was afraid of a tobacco style lawsuit in food. So the conferences were well attended. So I was part of the first few conferences. And I remember there was this African-American woman who was the director of health for Cuyahoga County, and that's where Cleveland is in Ohio. And she did this presentation on how type 2 diabetes is going to derail the American economy. I'm like, I got to have lunch with that person. So we got together, and she thoroughly depressed me. It's where I learned about type 2 diabetes, which is the kind you get from what you eat. Learn from her that it's haltable in the early stages, reversible and curable, but that if you don't do anything about it, and also the number of people, because back then I think, like when Chris was first diagnosed, there were like 1 million people in the United States with type 1, the type you can't do anything about and isn't caused by food but managed by food. But there were, like, at the time, 30 million with type 2, and I'm like, 30 million people have this horrible disease because of their choices. I'm doing something about that at Heartbeat.
Help fix it, right? Fix it.
And until I talked to her, and she told me about the food stamp family that runs out of food stamps in the middle of the month and has $2 for dinner for all 4 people in the family.
Unbelievable.
50 cents a person. There's no business model for that. I remember going back to Heartbeat and, like, looking out over the dining room, all the white tablecloths, and I'm like, feeling guiltier than shit, because it's like I could do what I was doing for people who could afford a $35 entree. And I was a little full of myself. I thought, I'm like, wow, I got the thing. I'm going to change the world. And I'm like, this is meaningless.
100%.
30 million people. And at the time that we had 30 million people with, like, type 2 diabetes, we had 25 million people on food stamps. And 70% of the people that had type 2 diabetes were low-income people. So it's kind of like, holy shit, how does someone who has $2 for dinner for 4 people keep themselves or their family from getting these horrible diseases that are going to end up with non-traumatic limb amputations, kidney transplants, dialysis, and early death? It freaked me out. It froze me. I actually thought I was done. Because there's no way to solve to that. That's the energy that eventually ended up leading to us founding Wholesome Wave.
Yeah, so I want to get into Wholesome Wave next, but I just have this. You just paint this amazing picture about being at CIA for that food conference, and I just picture, the higher ups from the Darden Restaurant Group being there, Ruby Tuesdays, Applebee's, all the big places there. And like, ladies and gentlemen, for Chef Michel Nischan, he comes up on stage like, "All right, boys, we're gonna juice a rutabaga."
Yeah, I got to tell you, they some of the chain, the bigger chain folks were really very open to it, because when they actually saw the simplicity of it, when you're a multi-billion-dollar company sitting on $900 million in cash, and you see somebody take a pristine meat stock and reduce it and mix it with reduced rutabaga and put it in an EC container without soy lecithin or anything else. And you get this incredibly delicious foam that never, ever collapses. And you put it on your tongue and you're like, holy God, what just happened to me? I mean, because rutabaga, you reduce it, it's like you swear there's cardamom in it. You swear that there's canela, that there's coriander. It's like, is that cracked pepper? What is that? It's got just fucking rutabaga, man.
This is happening speaking in my house. I'm
it's just rutabaga.
I will just next time I talk to him, I'll say, "Chef, I put reduced rutabaga juice and everything. It's amazing." I'm telling you, I can't wait to do it. And by the way, our friend Chef Dave chiming in on Facebook, he found a link for it there. It's in the chat for the actual book, though, so he did find a place to get it. So if anybody wants
Dave, thank you, Chef Dave. Thanks, man.
There you go. Well, Chef, I want to talk about Wholesome Wave. I wanted to kind of transition into that a little bit, because when I was working with NPR and Seasoned, I remember hearing so much about the doubling the amount the food stamp was worth for people buying vegetables at a farmer's market or something like that. And then it never hit me so much. I was thinking, man, you don't think of people with food stamps going to a farmer's market, but God, it does make a lot of sense.
Hey, we when Gus and I started that program, it was illegal. It was illegal. It was what? Yeah, it was illegal. There was guidance and regulation, because in 1997, to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, we went from the paper checks, the orange and the blue food stamps, to the EBT card.
Right.
Yep.
And it was all about like fraud, waste, and abuse, and not about nutrition. But what a lot of people don't know is that in 1996, food stamps, $80 million worth of food stamps were spent at farmers markets when they went to the EB, because there are a lot of people struggling with poverty that really actually understand nutrition, and that the fresher their kids should be eating vegetables. The fresher the vegetable, the more nutrient dense the vegetable is going to be. People struggling with poverty are working. 51% of people on food stamps are working. They just don't make enough money to put food on the table and pay the electric bill and pay rent, etc. Right? These aren't lazy takers who are uneducated and don't care about shit. A lot of people on SNAP benefits have a good amount of knowledge about food. They just don't have the resources to act on it, right?
Or the time.
Yeah, or the time. So the whole notion when we looked at doubling SNAP for fruits and vegetables, at farmers markets, it also gave us an opportunity to create an alternative currency, because it is a currency. It's money. We had to raise money and Newman is like, it's illegal, I'm funding it. He's like, that's cool, let's do it. I mean,
this is why Dan should have
was illegal at the time, right?
This is why Dan should have worked with you guys. It would have made a lot of sense then, because he would have helped you. Like, legal, count me in.
Man. Sorry, dude. Anyway, so he funded it, but the thing for us is that it's like $2 for 4 people. It's like, what if we came up with, what if we raised private money, and what if we double somebody's food stamps if they buy fruits and vegetables? We actually wanted to do it in grocery stores too, but the USDA wouldn't allow it because they were afraid of getting sued by grocery manufacturers for providing an unfair trade advantage in a public retail setting, which is a real thing to be afraid of. If you're a government agency, government gets sued all the time. And it's expensive, and it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. So, luckily, and again, Michael Batterberry, because it's like, I wanted to quit, Mishmash, and then Michael wrote the piece, and then Drew reached out. And then I wanted to quit because I felt guilty about Heartbeat. He's like, no fucking way. I'm going to introduce you to Gus Schumacher. So I met Gus, who was kind of like the Jacques Pepin of policy. He was a former undersecretary of agriculture during the Clinton administration. And when he and I got together, it was like 2 kids in a candy store, just like all these ideas. So, we talked about the idea, and Gus is like, one problem, it's illegal, but if we can raise the money to pilot it, I can use my relationships. We can get waivers and we can test it, but we have to start in farmers markets because there are no grocery manufacturers in farmers markets. So we started in farmers markets. For 2 reasons. One is we knew that before the advent of the switch to the EBT card, and those machines were only provided for grocery retailers, that $80 million worth of spend on food stamps was going to farmers markets, and then it went down to 0. And even today with the doubling programs, it's only 12 million. So that advent really unplugged a lot of food stamp shoppers from farmers markets. But we started there, and it was wildly successful. But then I used my notoriety to be able to get meetings with folks from grocery manufacturers and stuff like that. I'd be like, hey, that keynote you wanted me to do, I'll do it for free if we can have dinner. It's kind of like I go in like, they're like, really? Wow. Okay, so we're at dinner. What do you want to talk about? So I'd say, hey, well, I'm doing this thing. Me and Gus are doing this thing where we're,
they're receptive.
Food stamps, fruits and vegetables and stuff. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. What a great idea. I'm like, well, there's a rub, we'd like to, why aren't you doing it in grocery stores? It's like, well, funny you should ask.
Yeah.
And when I told them USDA's concerns, they're like, we would never want to be the people who stop or get in the way of people struggling with poverty putting fruits and vegetables on. We would never do that. I'm like, do you mind sending that to me in an email? So we were able to eventually get it into grocery retailers and stuff. But now the interesting, by 2014, we were able to get a pilot in the 2014 Farm Bill called the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive Program. And then Gus passed in 2017, but we were working on just trying to get it to $50 million a year instead of, because at 100 million, it's like, it's 5 year, 25 million a year, 20 million a year.
Right.
It needed to get to 15 million a year, and then it could stay, it would never come out of the Farm Bill. But then Gus passed. But in 2018, it was made permanent and named after him. So it's the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program.
That's awesome.
Wow. And how much is it now?
It's 250 million, so $50 million a year. But it's amazing. Yeah. And
really awesome.
And it also includes produce prescriptions, which is another concept that we created and kind of turned loose on the field and stuff like that. So we're really, really just trying to prove and demonstrate to the world the power of food, and its ability to make the world a better place for everybody, from a human health perspective, an environmental health perspective, economic health. I mean, farmers that participate in markets that do SNAP doubling put more land in production. They buy transplanters. They make infrastructural investments in their operation. It's cool, man. It works. It's just good common sense, but it requires a transaction. It's not donated food.
Mm-hmm.
A Haitian woman doesn't have to accept a box of broccoli. She can go and buy breadfruit and callaloo. That's the deal.
And callaloo is delicious.
It's awesome. So is breadfruit, and so is boniato. Boniato baked in milk is like one of the most delicious sweet
unbelievable
experiences you'll ever have, and it's super simple.
Man, I am so
What's
glad.
a boniato?
Yeah, tell them. Jeff.
Boniato is a white Caribbean sweet potato, actually African, but Africans brought it over during slave trade so that they could at least plant and grow and feed themselves, the food of their heritage. But it's freaking delicious, man.
It's awesome.
I'm so glad you're in the world, Chef. It just makes me so much happier to know you're in the world. It really
Absolutely,
does.
brother.
I like being alive.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a quick story before we get you out of here, Chef. We appreciate your time. I know it's getting late, but I know that you're close with Chef with Jacques Pepin, and
yes.
We did I got to do a guest chef dinner at the Madison Beach Hotel. I guess last year or something like that. And I was on stage at Mohegan Sun, and they called me. The event sold out in it sold out quick. They didn't sell me tickets. I think they only had 40 tickets to start, and then they wanted more. Anyway, they called me. I'm being a wise guy. I'm on stage in front of hundreds of people at Mohegan Sun doing some event. And so I'm like, oh, let's answer the phone. It's the Madison Beach Hotel. Yeah, so I put on speakerphone. Like, Chef, do you mind if we add 10 more tickets? People want to come. And I was like, yeah, of course. It's a lot of fun, whatever. And like, oh, and Chef Jacques Pepin wants to come, and his family's in town. He wants to bring the family. And I was like, oh, really? Yeah. Sure. That sounds great. And I mean, he's a very, very sweet man. I've had the chance to hang out several times with him now, but he's the only man I've ever met in my life that when I first met him, I literally didn't know what to say. I felt like I was gonna cry at first because I watched the man grow my whole life, and meeting him actually got to close my Julia Child trifecta. Julia Child came to CIA when I was there. I got chosen to be one of the students to walk her out to her car, and I got to have a few words with her, which was incredible. She told me I was very strong hands, and I was like, "Yeah, I think she's hitting on me." That's great.
Yeah, she was.
I know. Well, that was confirmed when I got to talk to Dory Greenspan, who then said, "Yes, she was probably hitting on you because that's what she did." And then having the chance to hang out with Jacques at that dinner, and then I got to go to his house and interview him for NPR, and he was just amazing to have that opportunity. And I know you go to the house all the time and play that weird ball game. I got invited over for it, but I can't remember.
Baton.
Yeah. Bool. Yeah. But he showed me just the library of books that he writes the menus in and stuff, and he gave me one of those to use for my client, and just an unbelievable human being. You got any good Jacques stories you could share with us?
Oh my God. So well, I have countless, but I'll share one that I'm really very, very fond of. But first, I'll just say that instead of two stories, I'll just talk about how remarkably unimpressed with himself he is.
Oh my
And how stunned he is at why people think he's such a big deal because he's just doing his thing, right?
Yeah.
He's just moving about the world and lucky and blessed enough to have had a background that allowed him to accumulate all of this knowledge, but also has that deep, genuine gift deeply baked into his spiritual DNA that makes him the ultimate sharer of knowledge. He's just wildly generous. So we were playing petanque.
Okay.
And it's at my house. We have a petanque court in my backyard. And I have this fire pit. It's big. It seats like 20 to 30 people. It's dug into the ground. I've done whole animals, etc. So I'm doing 4 grass-fed rib loins, whole rib loins that I cured, rubbed them 3 days in advance, packed them in. I mean, we have like oregano bushes, the size of a rhododendron, it's just like, wow. And stuff.
You're fighting them.
And we're playing petanque and I'm back there, grilling. It's like 90 degrees outside, live fire. So I'm like in a swimming shorts and like a t-shirt dripping with sweat, and Jacques is coming back, and it's like I have the loins resting and he's poking them. He's like, they're not done. And I'm like, Jacques, they're perfect, they're done. And he just like, they're not done. He's like, look at this, feel it. And it's just like, really starting to get under my skin, right?
And I'm going to argue with them.
So I'm like, here, this one's yours. So I gave him one. So he puts it back on, and I'm helping him turn it, and John Murphy, who's like one of our Bull compadres, who is co-hosting with me and is a pretty good cook himself, is helping Jacques. So Jacques gets it to the point that it's perfect. I have 3 loins. He has 1. I take him to the table to carve them. I cut his in half, medium well. I cut mine in half, perfect. And he's like, oh, well, I guess you were right. I mean, think about it, right? So it's like, it's not a steak. It's like, that rib loin is on the grill, and it's like this. Yeah. Here's the muscle structures running this way. If it was a steak, if we cut the steak right, it would be like this.
Right.
It's like when the muscle structure is cooking, north to south pole, it's going to feel a lot different when you touch it than if it's, cooking, hemispherically, right, along the equator, right? So it was just that was the funny thing, and so many people witnessed it. I'm like, I have witnesses. Oh my God! It was like the most amazing experience of my life. And then just to say, well, yeah, I guess you were right. I'm like, wow, that was awesome.
Unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Have you ever missed it? Do you miss? Do you miss the restaurant work? Do you miss working on the line? Do you miss the camaraderie? Do you miss the kitchen itself?
Yeah, I do. I miss the team, the family aspect of it. I miss the smells. I miss, a lot of those reactions that I was describing. I mean, you're feeding like 250 to 350 people, in a service. You have an opportunity to really please a lot of people.
Yes, sir.
I miss that. But the one of the things that I miss is that, and you guys will know this too, it's like so many of our friends are from the business, or they are our customers. There are customers that we meet in our operations that are just really incredible human beings, and we become lifelong friends with them. Absolutely. But when you have a restaurant, you don't have to go anywhere. Everybody comes to you.
Yeah, they come to you. See them every night.
I'm no longer in the restaurant business. I have to make this thing called plans. Dude. And I'm a lousy planner. I just like, wow, I have to like plan to see people. It used to be so easy to see so many of your friends because they would all come to you. And I miss that because it's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Chef, anytime you want someone to cook with you, call me. We'll come. I'll come cook with you any day of the week.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, that would be fun, man.
Anytime.
Like I said, we got the bull court, we got the fire pit, we got the garden, we have a great environment for food here. So you guys are welcome anytime.
Oh my God, it sounds incredible. And if you say it's done, I'll take Chef said it's done. It's done.
Yeah, we're not going to argue.
Yeah. Don't mess with my open fire cooking method.
Yes, Chef. Yes, Chef. Dan, before we get Chef out of here, you got any questions? We want to throw out something out to him?
Yeah, I have a little question. I'm curious. We was talking earlier about how the difference of what fat means to the world today as opposed to what it meant 20 years ago, or at least to Americans. And constantly it's changing and evolving the different things that people can or can't eat based on certain things, like especially now it's like with gluten and all these allergies and stuff. Has the changes in I don't want to say science, but perspective of how the food affects people at all, like how have you combated that? How have you combated the difficulties of that?
Yeah, to me, because I've watched it become very pervasive, because back when I did Heartbeat, it was 1997, right? I mean, that's a long time ago, and I have seen gluten allergies, Crohn's disease, all of these things are absolutely on the rise per capita. More people now per capita are struggling with those things than they did back then. And a lot of it is just because of how incredibly processed a lot of our food system has become. The human body was not designed to, there's one thing to like grind a hard red winter wheat seed, or a grano seed, which is the seed of semolina. Grind it down, grind the bran, the germ, grind it all down and make bread out of it. But when you look at what's actually happening to bread, to wheat, spraying it with chemicals like glyphosate, which are actually a poisonous pesticide, but it also loosens the hull on the outside, so it's easier to get the hull off, so that you get the seed and the germ to make white flour. I think our bodies are rejecting a lot of this, and there are so many processed carbohydrates even in the meat products that we eat. If you look at things like chicken nuggets, chicken burgers, all kinds of stuff have these polymers that are super highly processed. So I think the human body it takes so long for our cellular structure to respond to an environmental change. I think it's like anywhere from 600 to 1500 years. But we've evolved some of these ingredients, our food system, so rapidly that our bodies are just rejecting it, right? Which is why butter doesn't affect that. Dairy affects people because of the way dairy's been processed. But you look at like pasture-based butter. You look at oils and fats and onion and garlic, and most of the things that you're talking about are reactions of the body, and I think that it also heightens like allergens too, because it's like things like celery. People are becoming allergic to alliums, but a lot of that is there's onion powder and garlic powder and a lot of these highly processed foods that are being delivered by these polymers that I think are just kind of freaking our body out. That's my personal theory. There are a couple of scientists that I know that feel the same way. It's going to take us a long time and a lot of research of a lot of people to actually come up with some of the answers to it. But I think one of the ways I've just dealt with it in my own family is like, there's nothing wrong with an apple. There's, what's wrong with making sure you have a great tomato and slicing it and, sprinkling a little bit of sea salt on it and drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil, done. I mean, it's a good way to eat,
Absolutely.
spinach, lettuce, brassica, salt rubbing your kale, before you put it in. People are like, I hate kale salad. It's like, yeah, because the stupid idiot at the restaurant that made it just took raw kale and put some dressing on it.
Didn't salt it.
They didn't rub it. They didn't tenderize it. Rub it the day before with salt, let it sit, then make the salad. Freaking delicious. It's gorgeous, right? But it's salt and kale.
Yeah.
There aren't any polymers. There aren't any process. There's no xanthan gum. There isn't all this other stuff in there. So to me, it's like, if we can just stick to key ingredients, it's one of the things that I was privileged to be in a position to have to do Heartbeat. In a way, it was I felt that I had to do it or I couldn't live with myself, but it turned into one of the greatest learning experiences of my life. It's just like simplify, man. Lots of good stuff out there, plenty of great ingredients without all that other craziness that comes along with the process stuff. It can be
one ingredient cooking. You get the one thing and then you work it from there. Especially if you get it from the farm, you can get it locally. I always tell people the closer you know to the source, the better it's going to be. And it's even when you're talking about the wheat, it's the process. Even the seed is contaminated. They make because they process the seed, so it's even the seed to then what they spray on it. So it's the whole gambit. And then what they cut it with after they've cut the flour. So it goes on. It's unfortunate, but
it's just and the thing is that there's nothing better than you get like an heirloom variety of wheat and you get a SAMAP, a tabletop vertical grinder, you grind it, you skein it, and you get the germ. That's your like all-purpose flour, right? Mm-hmm. But then you take the bran and you keep screwing, you keep shrinking, the distance between, the millstone and the top stone, and then you put the bran back in there, you grind it, you skein it, you tighten it up, and then you can get the bran as fine as the germ, and then it acts just like all-purpose flour, super tender, but the farina flavor of it is incredible, but you haven't lost any of the fiber, any of the riboflavin, any of the nutrients, all of the things that your body needs to thrive, let alone survive. So to me, it's like I'm more into let's figure out how to get the most out of one thing instead of how many things can we add to this.
Yeah. That's always been the problem.
Thing too. And I want to tell you guys, Chef Storch, Matt Storch, chimed me on Instagram saying he's currently juicing a rutabaga. Love you, boys. Love you.
Yeah, baby. And tell them not to forget to reduce it.
Chef said reduce it, Matt. Chef said reduce it. There we go. Jeffy, before we get Chef out of here, got anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to say I love all the stuff you were talking about with using vegetables and not fat. You kind of touched on it briefly, but the thought process when you're like you said, you just like pretended that those things didn't exist when you were like writing recipes. So were there no classics at the restaurant, or were there reimagined classics? I guess I'm just
no Jeffrey, it's there were classics in that roasting bones to make a stock, making the stock, bringing it to a simmer, cutting it down, skimming it, stewarding it, cleaning it, straining it, reducing it. There definitely were classical techniques. I mean, the sweet potato juice, juicing it, letting it stand until the starch comes off. You put it in a clear Lexan, and at the bottom of the Lexan, you see this little line of white, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when it's nice and big is when you pour it off. But again, you're reducing it like heavy cream. So it's a reduction, which is classic. That's classic.
Totally.
The French looked at reduction as a way to do a couple of things. One was concentrate flavor. The other was to add body, and texture. But also get it to a point where you could mount it and add fat. And that sweet potato side, there's enough protein in a sweet potato where when you get it to that type of reduction, you could actually put a couple of thumbnails of butter in it. But because it's just sweet potato and you didn't have mirepoix and thyme stems and bay in the stock, which gets muddy when you reduce it, because it was just sweet potato, a little bit of butter has the same impact as mounting it with a half a pound when you do a traditional stock. So those were the things that fascinated me. And I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to be put in that environment, be in that environment where I had to figure it out, and it makes you vulnerable, which I think is a very good thing. It's like, there's nothing wrong with like saying, I have no confidence right now. It's a good place to be sometimes.
Totally. Chef Plum and I are both private chefs. And so we have, one client that we're always trying to please. So it's, I try to make them super healthy food all the time. And I'm always trying to kind of reinvent things a little bit and try to lighten things up. I like to lighten dishes, and I like to try to make things a little healthier and maybe use, I still use butter. Don't get me wrong. I love butter. I love fat, but I tend to cook with a little less fat and a little less salt, and try to, because I love people, I really appreciated what you said there about like, the more you learn about food and the more you learn about what's in food and what you're doing with food as a chef, there's a huge responsibility for nurturing people and for giving them not just what like is going to like make, dance on their taste buds or whatever, but also nourish them, you know what I mean? Like all the way through. And I just, I appreciate what you're doing. And I think it's really, that's where it's at.
Thanks, Jeffy. I appreciate it, man.
There it is. Chef, you're awesome. I can't thank you enough for your time. What a good time hanging out with you tonight, man. Seriously.
Yeah, likewise, man. My pleasure, man. It was a great conversation, man. Thanks for the great questions. Awesome, man.
You are the best. Friends,
bro.
Chef Michel Nischan. There he is. Woo! Thank you, brother. Have a great night, Chef. We appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Guys, take care, man.
Thank you, Chef.
We'll see you soon, man.
We want to cook and play bull.
Come on over, man. We'll cook and play some bull.
Oh,
let's go.
Be careful what you ask for, Chef.
Don't mess with my meat.
Take care, Chef. There you go. Chef Michel Nischan.
Whoa.
That guy is awesome. What a fantastic conversation. Wow.
Holy
really,
shit.
Really enjoyed that conversation.
Dude.
Before we do it, before we break it down for a few minutes, Dan, throw some plugs out there for Chef, because I don't know if we said it enough, because we just got so wrapped up in the conversation with him. What an amazing human being that guy is.
Absolutely. Go to at Chef Michel, or at chefnischan.com. That's where everything is at. I mean, you can find all the things you got going on there. You can also find links to Wholesome Wave, wholesomewave.org. He got, and then Michel Nischan on IG. Definitely, if you go to the website, chefnischan.com, you'll definitely get everything you need. He got recipes on there. He got his other cookbooks on there. He got everything, upcoming events, little bio. It's awesome.
You get a chance to talk about Wholesome Crave. We got to have him back on at some point just to talk more about. There's so much stuff to talk about there. I feel like we could call Chef and just, first of all, I feel smarter already, which is incredible. So that's fantastic. However, I think Chef was incredible, and I appreciate the conversation so much. So big shout out to him. Make sure you check his stuff out. Michel Nischan on IG, and of course, check him out at chefnischan.com. That was really fun. Yeah, it's coming all over the place right here. Vanessa chiming in. Great conversation. She enjoyed that. Dude was solid. Love that right there. Dave just chimed in. He ordered the book. There it is. I know. Should have told Chef that was going to happen. Now awesome. He has to make some new books, I think.
Dude, that was like a master class. I feel like we just learned some shit that's like, come on, that was amazing. I love getting Chefy. I love when it comes in like that. We get people who talk the shop with us.
It was the best.
It was the best. I don't want to go cook shit. Like right? Like hearing that, I'm like, dude, I got a ton of root vegetables in my fridge. I'm gonna juice them all tomorrow.
I'm gonna put
that time of year too.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna put some olive oil, some root vegetables. I'm gonna put them on the smoker. I'm gonna smoke them for a little bit, and then I'm gonna juice them and see what happens.
Yeah, it's funny because I've juiced vegetables and made vinegars out of them, but I've never reduced them like that and tried to make stocks or anything. And I think that is such a cool use of just a bunch of vegetables. You know what I mean? Like I'm always looking, because I try to order from, the Chef's Garden and from, different great purveyors.
We should have brought up Farmer Lee Jones to him.
Oh, I know. See, he's a good brother, though. I hope, Chef Michel, I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as we enjoyed you, because we'd love to have you back on sometime for a round table.
Yeah.
It's a man. Whew.
Also want to shout out to Chef Bun. He's chiming in on the Instagram, too. He was watching, enjoying the conversation right there. I love that, too. And, Romanov _1231, really interesting to hear how he integrated classic techniques into it. Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Dude,
that guy's a G.
Stock. I'm like, God damn it! Why don't I think of shit like that?
I know.
It makes me so mad when something's so beautifully simple, and then like with the vegetable reduction, and then like marrying them, and then like, and he doesn't use butter, but I use the fuck out of some butter. That shit would be banging. I mean, I was like rutabaga. I was like, I'm freaking out, man.
Rutabagas are delicious. I feel they're super underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're delicious.
There's Dave chiming on Instagram, on Facebook, saying he's got a pristine lamb stock in the freezer. Now he's going to go buy a juicer. Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, I just love when you hear people like that talk who is just, I mean, it's just a whole different level of chef. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a different level. And I just love being around that and being able to say that these are people that we know. And, you know, I think one of the things we should make happen in 2024, we've been invited to go cook with our friend Chef Bun Lai. We need to go cook with him for sure.
Absolutely.
And you know, he'll show us how to make some mice and cook some weeds.
Yeah,
we'll go in the backyard. We'll spear some green crabs. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm in. Barnacles, whatever.
Yeah, and then we should go try to cook with Chef Michel because I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm down with all
the time, man. I'm down. That dude's a legend, man. I didn't even know all that EBT stuff. Like that's huge. Like to get farm fresh vegetables to you know people struggling to pay their bills. I think that's a beautiful thing that to know he's that responsible for. I know because I mean I had food stamps as a kid. We had WIC. We had nothing like that. To know that he's responsible for getting those vegetables, and now it's a mainstay. Like that's a thing, and people being able to get that kind of nutritious food for them to eat and not have to rely on the pre-processed nonsense that there's always available to them. And I think that's
the first thing I heard about him. I did a little bit on him for NPR, I guess 2 years ago, and that's the first I had learned about that whole program. And I think I loosely knew it was his program from Wholesome Wave, but yeah, it's just unbelievable. I think the responsibility that's felt through a human being like that, I mean, it's infectious, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, 100%. Like I said, just a chef of a different level. I love that. What a great conversation. I mean, shout out to him. Also, what about Jeffy there at the end? And then Jeffy you were feeling a little emotions there. I saw you. It was great. You were just talking about the responsibility and
because it was
good.
It's something that I do feel a lot. You know, I think about it whenever I cook for somebody. You know, as I get older, I used to just want to make things so good and all that kind of stuff, and now I often think like, how can I make something so good but also not gonna make them feel like shit ever? You know, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of food that you can eat, and when you're eating it you feel amazing. The next day you might wake up and be like, and it's happening to me as I get older. So it's like I think about other people, and it's just, I don't know. It's like so hearing that he had a successful restaurant where he did nothing but try to cook for people's health was really inspiring.
No cream, no butter, no.
Yeah, you know, because I mean, listen, you know,
in the 90s,
you know, guys, I'm gonna retire and open a restaurant. There's no doubt. Like I'm not gonna.
Retiring.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, when I retire from being a private chef, I'm gonna open a restaurant, and I will be working, you know, probably 75, 80 hours a week well into my 90s, and
well, he was saying back in the 90s, and he was researching and stuff. They didn't have the internet back then. I wanted to show him that, you know, Guinness, the widget in the Guinness can, it was Time Magazine's invention of the year. Came in first place. The internet came into second place. So he should get Guinness for not having the internet. You know.
Listen, we had Michael Reardon on this show.
Yes, we did.
And
highest level human being for Guinness in the United States
that we could talk to.
Yeah, well, he's pretty high up there in the United States. But yeah, what a great conversation. Shout out to Chef Michel. He's awesome. Again, I just want to put it out there for everybody. If you haven't done so yet, you got to check this out. MoheganSun.com. The 20th anniversary. Dan, you can throw the banner up there for that one too, can't you?
You can even get tickets anymore. Good luck.
There's some available. I know the Dine Around sold out. A couple other events are sold out, but
just get there. Just get there, because there's probably a way to get in. Something. I'm just saying, once you get there, there's like giveaways in the casino that whole week. You know, there's all sorts of shit going on. There's little hustles. Yeah. I see people getting tickets to all sorts of stuff. So I'm just saying, don't sleep. If you're in Connecticut, you should be at Mohegan Sun this week.
If you're in not this week, but the January 25th.
Yeah, the 25th week is what I meant. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're in the Northeast anywhere. I mean, if you're even in DC, drive up. It's worth the drive.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, man. Don't be sorry. Rhode Island, you definitely should be over there, because there's shit going on in Rhode Island. So you better be over here. Massachusetts.
What was that?
I don't know. I something else was about to come out, but I bit my tongue and I held it in.
Oh, man, I wish we had talked about Wholesome Wave a little bit more. That's all right. We gotta get Michel on again. That was awesome, and dude. I loved his Jacques Pen story.
Which you did.
That was awesome.
How awesome is that, though?
That was awesome.
I mean, in front of other people, that's some vindication. I would have been like, you know, I might never cook again anymore.
Listen, Jacques, I know they might have done things different at the Hojo back then, but let me tell you something. Yeah. Nowadays,
I would be telling everybody you can. I don't go by chef. I'm Master Jeff now. I'm.
Right.
They call me Master Jeff. It's just
and of course he's right though. He's such a humble. No, there's just no ego whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, I sat in his house and I gave him a $11.50 bottle of wine. Yeah, I said $50. Why did I say that? It was like a $12 bottle of wine, but there was a story behind it, and like he loved it because of the story I told. I don't know, but like he loved it because of the story I told. You know?
What'd you get him? Some Mad Dog 2020? You were like, listen, Jock, I used to drink this at the bus stop. This was where it was at, man, back in Richmond.
I was like, let me tell you something right here.
Sour apple joint.
This right here is called Steel Reserve, right? It's that high gravity joint. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, so what we do is we poke a hole in the bottom of the can, Jock, and we tip it back. You suck it as much as you can, bro. Don't worry if it gets on your face a little bit. Just
don't worry about that.
Oh, it's like, oh my god,
shit!
I really wish.
Let's see. The official Kitchen Killer is chiming in right now. It says, "Where can I listen to in case I can't watch the whole thing live?" Yes, absolutely. This version, the podcast version, will be available everywhere tomorrow. Anywhere you get podcasts from, it'll be there. And of course,
anywhere.
If you go to Facebook, you can watch the video stream too. It'll be up on Chef Plum on the video stream. Also on YouTube.
Yep.
I just don't promote.
It lives on LinkedIn under my name. It lives on. It's all over. It's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram.
I think it's on Twitter.
No, it's not on X.
No, it's not on that anymore. It's currently, right now, we are streaming live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Currently.
We're not on LinkedIn. Well, that's for my. I stream from my. I stream there. It's good.
So there you go. So that's all places you find it. If you just want the audio while you're working, anywhere you get. Thanks for making it difficult, Jeff. Jesus Christ. Sorry, Killer. I apologize.
More places.
Timing in. He says, "We chef." Shout out from Oak Cliff, Texas. Yo, shout out to you, brother. We appreciate you chiming in. No doubt about it. It's a great conversation. When do you hear him talk about juicing rutabagas and how you can use that to? It's crazy. Just listen. Go back and listen. And there'll definitely be clips on Instagram too. I'm telling you.
You know, there's a few hundred chefs around the country that are juicing fucking root vegetables this week. I'm telling you right now. It's like there's people. I bet you that dude in Chile is like looking around like fucking. Oh, what do I got? What's a rutabaga? I don't know. But look, this is close, and he's gonna juice the shit out of it.
Dude.
Some yucca juice.
Heard it here. Juice the yucca and Hernan. Let the starch. Bottom.
No doubt about it.
And reduce it.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. Same thing to you, Vanessa. We appreciate you. We're going to sign up out of here. If you haven't done so yet, like I said, MoheganSun.com. It's going to be the best. It's the best week of the year. We got so many fun things coming. I cannot wait to break it down for you, friends. We're going to have a lot of fun here moving forward with the show. We're not sure going into the week of the 25th. There may be a best of episode, but it will still be a new episode. Does that make sense? Maybe hosted by Jeff and Dan.
Be a best of.
I might just produce it.
It's going to be so best.
It's going to be the best of the best. The best of the video time.
You're the best of the best.
So
there we go. Do we take some time notes this episode?
I have a shit ton.
I got a head.
I mean, there was a lot. There was some gems in this.
I got a bunch. I got a few.
Oh, your daddy.
Jeffy's still singing.
I'm sorry.
Oh, here, good brother Tom Carmen's chiming in right now. Right there, Omaha Steaks. Tom, we can't wait. Hopefully, you're going to be there, brother. Come say what's up. I want to talk to you. I've been, dude. Hope you're there. You're awesome. Can't wait to see you.
Yeah,
there
man.
he is.
Come see us.
And of course, Dave's chiming in. The best around. There it is.
You're the best.
You guys are giving me credit for the previously on Plumluvfoods tonight. That was awesome.
Previously on Plumluvfoods. What, you mean the intro?
Yeah,
it was amazing.
It was hysterical.
It was awesome. It was absolutely amazing. The whole thing.
I'm looking for applause. I'm just saying it was funny. That's all.
Yeah, I was laughing, but you can't. We're not talking.
I watched you laugh. Dan just looked confused the whole time.
Yeah, Dan doesn't get anything. He doesn't watch pop culture. He just lifts weights.
Just lift weights. That's it.
Dan's lifting weights and doing like stoic, inspirational shit right now.
I know.
is
Which
new
when he
shit.
first started doing it, I was like, "Is Dan gonna kill himself? This is like a
What the fuck?
is he just writing shit like this is like a suicide note? What is this?"
He's like leaving.
I like to leave you wondering.
I'm really happy for these 4 things.
Yeah, like, you alright, man?
That's
So,
fucked up, bro.
I'm truly grateful for you too as well.
Yo,
leave these notes.
I love it.
You can't have more shit. You can't have a whole lot more left that you like. I know you. But
I'm
there's not a
thankful
whole
for
lot
everything.
left.
I mean, I'm thankful for this cup. I'm thankful for this pen. Thankful for this mouse.
Look, Dave's chiming in.
You're just looking around you're just looking around your room.
When you realize how beautiful the little things are, you realize how amazing life is. Sorry,
bro.
One day you guys will get here. It's cool.
Listen. We love the attitude of gratitude. It's beautiful, Dan. We support you. We love you. It just took us off guard because usually you're on some real fuck you shit. So,
by the way, that's from a man with a doily on his head.
I'm trying not to be.
First of all, my mom crocheted this for me because she loves me. Shout out, mama.
Like an extra large.
It looks like a kufi, but it's
yeah. Oh God, what is that?
Well, it's like a slouch.
Jeffy's
cap.
mom doesn't know how. It's a long story. I'm just saying. Like,
no, she knows what my hair's like.
Upstate New York, they grow people differently. That's all I'm saying.
You just say word.
They just grow people differently. You know, that's it.
I've been waiting for this from Dan.
There it is, right there. Dave.
There you go.
Dave's
legit been expecting it.
Okay.
Okay.
Said, nah, I've been waiting for this from Dan. Legit been expecting it. All right, listen.
Dave's one good eye sees the world, but the other eye sees the future.
Ooh, okay, nicely done. Yes, that's about all I got for the night, boys. I think we're about done.
Yo, is the dumpster burning? Burn it up. Light it on.
No, not yet. I mean, we've got the matchbook out. And we're walking towards the dumpster. It's not on fire yet.
I like throwing cans. I want to throw aerosol cans in it first.
What if Chef Michel watches the rest of this program?
Has he ever burned an aerosol can? It's pretty cool.
I have a feeling he might have. Actually,
I'm saying he lived on a farm. I'm sure he did all sorts of weird shit. I worked on a farm.
He didn't even touch his band. What was the name of his band? Sabotage.
Yeah, he was like, so I was in this band called Kronos or something.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I wrote down to like ask him about it too, and I fucking forgot to bring it back up.
Oh my god!
Oh, this dude was.
So I was in this band called
over that.
I was in this band called Cryo Killer. I forgot what it was. It was something crazy though. Jeez,
that was so funny. Yeah, that was that
over Jeff, but we're not gonna text him that. That'd be crazy. That man doesn't fuck us anymore.
These dudes are crazy.
Uh-oh.
That's hilarious. Now
letting Dave's secrets out. All right, cool.
All right,
listen, you guys.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. We appreciate everybody. Thank you very, very much. We'll see you guys back here next week on the episode of Plum Love Food Live. In the meantime, and in between time, friends, remember, food is one of the most important things that we have in life. Everything important in life revolves around food. Don't forget, Jeffy's always here for you. There he is. Look out. He's got holsters, friends. He's got holsters. Let's make sure we give it the time it deserves. We'll see you guys next week right here, my friends, on Plum Love Foods Live. Have a great night. We appreciate it. I forgot to play the warning. I'll play it now and then play the outro. Damn it.
The following program is a live podcast with hospitality individuals and chefs who are real people. Topics may include drinking, occasional vitamin use, choreographed violence, Appalachian humor, politics, comic books, ghosts, overindulgence, polyamory, theft, obstruction of justice, bleeding wounds, and more. These things some people may find offensive, but are not limited to what may offend some people, but not others. The show does occasionally use language that would be not safe for work. But it's how real people talk, and like we said in the first line of the warning, these are real people. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please call our comment line at 860-744-4767. Thank you.
From the tower of power, too sweet to be sour, I'm funky like a monkey. Sky's the limit and space is the place.
Thank you for listening to Plum Love Foods Live. See you next week, good brothers and sisters.
Do you think I'm crazy?